That's exciting.
Mayor.
All right, I would like to call back to order the October 28th meeting of the Newport Beach City Council. And Madam City Clerk, may we have a roll call?
The record will reflect that all members of council are present.
Thank you. I would ask us to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilwoman Gardner, followed by invocation by Councilman Curry. Please remain standing.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in your minds and hearts in prayer. Our Lord God, we come before you today as your children, asking for your divine guidance on the decisions that we make, for your protection on our community, for wisdom in caring for those less fortunate among us. As our country enters into the great cathedral of democracy on Election Day, we ask for wisdom for voters across our land, and particularly here in our city, that our leaders might always guide our community from a perspective of selflessness, wisdom, and compassion. In your name, amen.
We're going to start the evening off tonight with a couple of presentations, and the first one is going to be Adopt a Shelter Dog Month. Our city manager, I believe.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. So,
he's hiding down there.
When the work gets tense, we at City Hall talk about our dogs. They greet us when we come home, and so we turn this into an effort to remind people that October is Adopt a Shelter Dog Month. So these are our City Hall adoptee dogs. You can see some familiar last names on there. We're encouraging the community to upload their photos. If you rescued a dog, you could do a cat too. It's not Adopt a Shelter Cat Month yet, but or use the hashtag NBDogs, and just reminding folks to consider pet adoption. We have some wonderful shelters around us. We use the Humane Society shelter in Huntington Beach. Laguna Beach has a shelter, Irvine has a shelter, and the county has a shelter. So if anyone's thinking about adopting a shelter dog, October is a great month to do it. So are the rest of the 11 months. So that's our message for Adopt a Shelter Dog Month.
All right, thank you. Our next presentation is the 2014 Achievement Award from the Arts Orange County for Advanced Public Art.
Good evening. I'm Pat Wayne, Deputy Director of Arts Orange County. So it's my pleasure tonight to announce to the Council that last week on Wednesday, October 22nd, Arts Orange County hosted the 15th Annual Orange County Arts Awards. This is a great evening celebrating outstanding careers of artists and the special achievements of arts organizations as well as special projects. So the community of Newport Beach was well represented that evening because we presented a Lifetime Achievement Award to artist Don Ed Hardy, a native of Corona del Mar, and the Orange County Women's Chorus, who presents part of their season here in Newport Beach. But what was most special, incredibly special, is that you were nominated and then awarded the Outstanding Commitment to Public Art Award with the opening of your first sculpture exhibition in Civic Center Park. And Mayor Rush Hill and his wife Linda attended, as well as Arts Commissioner and Committee Chair Robert Smith and his wife Carmen. So I just wanted to mention that the award was presented by the Boeing Company, Vanessa Peretta, who's the community arts investor at Boeing. I thought that was especially appropriate given the happy marriage between art and engineering that exists in the art of sculpture. So I just wanted to say congratulations again tonight on behalf of the Arts OC Board of Directors on literally exploding onto the art scene with such a compelling and outstanding public art project. And I'd like to present this award, which is a sculpture designed by artist Christopher Schultz, to the mayor.
Thank you. I believe there's some art commissioners here in the audience. Oh, lined up. Come on down.
This is President of the Arts Commission, Rita Goldberg, Commissioner Arlene Greer, Commissioner Caroline Logan, and Chairman of the Subcommittee for the Sculpture Garden, Robert Smith.
Should make sure we get a photo with everybody over by the flags, maybe the commissioners too. Yep.
You know, it was just a matter of a couple of years ago, I think when Councilman Hinn was mayor, and he dubbed the phrase of the shiny city on the bay, and the analysis of what was lacking or what could we pay more attention to, the whole concept of art and sculpture was surfaced around that point in time. And our Arts Commission went to work on that. And it's just absolutely remarkable in such a short period of time that we could win such a prestigious award for where we are today, with only half of our sculpture garden occupied. And I'll remind everyone that in the true spirit of economy, that those sculptures are not purchased. They're all on loan by the artists from across the country. And there'll be 10 more installed next year. And each year, the previous 10 will be removed and a new 10 brought in. So we will have a continuous park of sculpture that will be renewing itself on a regular basis, which will continue to make the park environment very exciting for all of those that live and play in Newport. So congratulations to the Arts Commission for a job well done, and thank you, Arts Orange County, for this prestigious award. With that, we'll go to notice of the public.
The city provides a yellow sign-in card to assist in the preparation of the minutes. The completion of the card is not required in order to address the city council. If the optional sign-in card has been completed, it should be placed in the box provided at the podium. The City Council of Newport Beach welcomes and encourages community participation. Public comments are generally limited to 3 minutes per person to allow everyone to speak. Written comments are encouraged as well. The City Council has a discretion to extend or shorten the time limit on agenda or non-agenda items. As a courtesy, please turn cell phones off or set them in the silent mode. Now is the time for City Council announcements or matters which council members would like placed on a future agenda.
Councilwoman Gardner.
Continuing the art theme, this Saturday is going to be really an exciting day. It's going to be all about Rex Brandt, who is a world-famous watercolorist and painter and designed our city seal. At 11 o'clock in the morning at the foothill, the Goldenrod Footbridge, we will be installing a plaque commemorating his studio, which is right next door, Blue Sky. And then in the Friends Room of the library at 2 o'clock, there will be a lecture on his work and that will be followed at 3 o'clock by a reception. And there are going to be, I know, at least one of our local collectors who's specialized in California plein air will be displaying, having many of his paintings, Rex's paintings, on display. So it's going to be a really marvelous day, and I think we're all looking forward to it. Drought, we're all concerned about the drought, and city staff is going to be doing a presentation at the Environmental Nature Center on November 5th. At 6 o'clock, 6 to 7. So if you want additional ideas on how better to save water, that is the place to go. And then, for those of you who have enjoyed taking the ferry from Balboa to Balboa Island, but thought what a fun it would be to take it someplace else, the opportunity will take place on November 15th. The Harbor Commission is going to be doing a tour of the harbor. You can take the ferry around the whole harbor, stopping at likely spots, pointing out where public piers could be, where mitigation projects have taken place. They'll be leaving from the Harbor Patrol Center down on Bayside, first come, first served, and there'll be a brief meeting of the Commission at 8 a.m., and then they'll be taking off shortly thereafter. So that is November 15th.
Councilman Petros.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a brief report. The Center for New Urbanism hosted a 5-day charrette in Newport Beach from the 17th to the 21st. It was held here in the community room. Their purpose was to review different design alternatives for the Mariners Mile corridor to help reinvigorate that area, as well as look at mobility options through that area. It was a very well-attended set of meetings. It culminated in the preparation of a report that is being prepared and published, and when that is available, it will be online. I would encourage all those with an interest in the Mariners Mile corridor to review that. Very, very thoughtful and creative alternatives to design through the corridor, as well as addressing mobility issues along PCH. So it was a very well attended session.
Councilman Selledge.
Thank you. On November the 12th, Speak Up Newport is going to be having a presentation in the community room across the foyer here on the 405 toll lines, and representatives from Caltrans are going to be there, as well as representatives from the corridor cities to present the pros and cons of it. And if you drive the 405 a lot, it's probably something that you'd be interested in. So encourage folks that have an interest in it to put it on their calendar and attend. That's November the 12th. Reception starts at 5:30 and the program starts at 6 o'clock.
Councilwoman Gardner. Daigle.
Yes, this afternoon I was at Orange County Water District with the governor. Governor Brown came, and he was there to campaign for Proposition 1 and 2. The governor's so popular he doesn't need to campaign for his own re-election. He may be sending out his dog Sutter. And I could only wish that my cat Charles was so outgoing, but unfortunately he won't be campaigning. Anyhow, what the governor did have to say with Proposition 1 is that, and you can read about this on his website, is that water is the lifeblood of any civilization, and for California it's the precondition of healthy rivers, valleys, farms, and a strong economy. And with this water bond, legislators from both parties have affirmed their faith in California's future. So it's a bond measure that enjoys bipartisan support, which of course is quite a rare occurrence here in California. And the bond provides for water use efficiency and recycling, groundwater cleanup, and $2.7 billion for additional water storage. So that way, water that's currently running out to the sea, we can capture and we can use down the line, because no one really knows how long this drought will continue to occur. The governor, so that would probably be a highlight for those of us in Newport. And then also Councilman Curry was there, and then Georgia Murdoch from our water department was there. And I know as residents, if you have questions and receive a phone number to call about our utilities, you're probably going to get George Murdoch on the line. So he's the one who answers all of those questions. So it was really good. I did get to talk to the governor. Someone introduced me as being from Newport Beach, and the governor inquired about what was happening with Newport Bay. So that was quite nice that he knew about an issue that, of course, is core to our community. And I let him know that things were going well for us here in Newport Beach. So thank you.
Councilman Henn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one thing. The Tidelands Management Committee will be meeting tomorrow, Wednesday, the 29th, in the community room right next door here. Two things on the agenda. We will continue our discussion of the Balboa Island seawalls and potential solutions, as well as get an update on the eelgrass plan for the harbor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Curry.
I think I have some photographs to go with tonight's presentation, but I was, as Councilmember Daigle mentioned, I was also at the reception this afternoon at Orange County Water District. I sit on the Sanitation District Board, and we co-sponsored this event with Governor Brown to show bipartisan support, really, for the need for a better water plan for California as embodied in Proposition 1. Councilmember Daigle really talked about the details there. We also talked about Proposition 2, which sets aside a state rainy day fund so that we don't have the volatility in our income taxes in the state because of the capital gain situation. This will, if we have a robust reserve fund, that enables us to allow the Proposition 30 tax increases to roll off in the future. So there was good support. The governor was there. Democrats and Republicans from across California in support of both of these concepts. And then next photograph. Yesterday, I had the opportunity, along with some other elected officials, to tour the San Onofre Nuclear Generating Station. As most of you know, it's no longer generating power, and it is in the process. It will be a long, multi-decade process of decommissioning. And we had the opportunity to walk through the plant, to observe the security that exists there, and to talk about the process that they're following to decommission SONGS, which is what its acronym is known by, San Onofre Nuclear Generating Station. And I feel much more confident now, having visited there, that they have both the security in place to protect the facility and a strategy to decommission it safely over the amount of time that it's going to take. And then finally, after many years of being up here with my colleagues who have enjoyed their status as grandparents, I am proud to join them in this august status, and I announce on October 16th the birth of Anthony David Capitelli, Jr., whom you see here. Mother and father and baby are all doing fine, and we have a new little politician in the family, and I will tell you that Grandma is particularly proud of this little one. So I'm proud to join the ranks of grandparents. Thank you.
He looks like he's already celebrating your election victory next week.
He's getting ready.
Congratulations. And I think, I can't remember, to be honest with you, if we talked about it last time or not, but we had Arts in the Park. And you saw some slides of that if you came early to the meeting up on the screen. And once again, another exciting use of our Civic Center here for that. So with that, Madam Clerk, shall we go to public comments on the consent calendar?
This is the time in which council members may pull items from the consent calendar, items 1 through 14, for discussion. Public comments are invited on consent calendar. Speakers must limit comments to 3 minutes. Before speaking, please state your name for the record. If any item is removed from the consent calendar by a council member, members of the public are invited to speak on each item for up to 3 minutes per item. All matters listed under consent calendar are considered to be routine and will all be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. Council members have received detailed staff reports on each of the items recommending an action. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time the City Council votes on the motion unless members of the City Council request specific items to be discussed and are removed from the consent calendar for separate action.
Councilwoman Daigle, do you have anything that you would like to hold?
I don't.
All right, you will be recusing yourself on item number 5, I believe.
Thank you for reminding me.
You're
Yes,
more than
thank you.
welcome. Councilman Henn.
Nothing to pull, but I will be recusing myself on items 4 and 7 as I have a consulting relationship with a business in Violito Plaza.
Councilman Curry.
Nothing to pull.
Councilwoman Gardner.
I'd like to pull number 14, recuse myself from item number 3, and recuse myself from item number 4 as it refers to storm drain receptors.
Councilman Petros.
I have nothing to pull.
Councilman Selledge.
I have nothing.
And I have nothing to pull, but I will recuse myself on item number 4 because of investments and property owned close to the discussion. Seeing nothing else, if I could have a motion, I'll then go to public comments on the consent calendar.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move approval of consent calendar items 1 through 14, noting the following exceptions. Councilmember Daigle recusing herself on item number 5. Councilman Henn recusing himself on items 4 and 7. Councilman Hill, or Mayor Hill, recusing himself on item number 4. Councilwoman Gardner pulling item number 14 and recusing herself on item number 4 also.
3.
Oh, and 3, okay. I thought you were correcting yourself.
All right, do we have a second for that motion?
Second.
All right. With that, I'd like to go to public comments. Is there anyone in the public that would like to comment on an item on the consent calendar?
I just wanted to give support on consent calendar item number 4. I appreciate all the hard work of the city staff and the city council on the efforts to improve the water quality at the Upper Newport Bay. This is Measure M funding, which improves all water quality throughout the city of Newport Beach, and I think it's really important that we've had a council that's been very focused on improving the environment here in the city. There's a number of projects upcoming. I'll speak sort of later on, but just as a quick comment on number 4, I really support all the work that the city does, and so the residents know it's a lot of hard work from city staff to prepare all these grant applications where your tax dollars that are from Measure M that was voted in go to getting grants to help the city with capital improvement projects. So it's a job well done by the city.
Can we have your
Right,
name,
thank you for that.
please?
Justin Cox, thank you.
I probably should have noted also that this item is actually up for continuance, and your vote on the consent calendar will be continuing this item to the next meeting. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on items on the consent calendar?
My name is Catherine Johansson. I'm a resident in the city of Newport Beach. I am also an apartment owner. I own 40 apartments on Amigos Way. I'm here to ask the City Council to approve the revised parking restriction resolution number 2014-91, as this would best accommodate the needs of this community by allowing for alternate days parking on alternate sides of the street, rather than committing my residents to have to find parking in an unreasonably far location from where they live. I also want to remind Council that this is a community that is also heavily impacted, as you know, by the recent growth of Our Lady Queen of Angels, as well as the local high school. So my residents have not only to negotiate parking issues between those, but as well with the parking restrictions enforced by street sweeping. I'm delighted that we have street sweeping. I just would like it to be in a manner that best meets the needs of the community. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else like to speak on any item that's on the consent calendar?
Good evening. My name is Paul Dramus. I'm the president of the Homeowners Association of Villa Granada, 18 homes on Amigos Way. And echoing Katie's sentiments, we sadly went 4 or 5 years without any street sweeping, that a luxury that almost everybody else enjoys. And after 2 years of working with you, it was reinstated, but sadly, in an onerous way, where the people, because of the school and Our Lady Queen of Angels, anyone having to relocate a car off-street would have to go nearly a mile because of private parking in all the East Bluff, the villas, and the bluffs. So I'm asking for our residents and those around that we have what is accorded to everyone else on separate days. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Be fairly brief. My name is Steve Gregory. I'm a resident over in Amigos Way, and I second both of them on the decision that they would like that changed. Thank you.
Well said. All right, anybody else like to speak on the consent calendar? All right, seeing none, I'm going to bring it back to the council, and I would ask the council to, could we have our voting screen up, please? Go ahead, talk amongst yourselves.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make one comment. I just want to thank the residents of Amigos and that part of town that did have to put up with the street sweeping requirements for that period. We should have caught that earlier, and I appreciate your coming down. I appreciate the correction now, and we're sorry to put you through that up until this point. It'll get better.
Yeah, I think our power outage we had yesterday did something to it.
Right.
Prior to you voting, let me read the ordinance title, though, for item 3, ordinance number 2014-17, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Newport Beach approving an amendment to Title 20 of the Newport Beach Municipal Code to allow A-frame signs in the Corona Del Mar commercial zoning districts. All in favor, please raise your hand. The motion carries unanimously, 7-0.
Thank you. We'll go to item number 14, Councilwoman Gardner.
This is the designation of the footbridge as a historical entity. And I just wanted to encourage us, perhaps I don't know if we can make it part of this motion, but that we accept the Historical Society's offer to provide a plaque. Can we vote on that tonight, Mr. City Attorney, or does that have to come back, or can we just let staff know that we want that? Or?
Yeah, I think that could be handled at a staff level.
Okay. So if that's everybody's in agreement with that, anybody have any problem with the? Okay. So then I move the item.
All right. It's been moved and seconded. I'd like to open it up to the public. Anybody like to comment on item number 14? Seeing no one, I'll bring it back to the council. All those in favor, raise your right hand, or left hand, or both hands.
The motion carries unanimously, 7-0.
All right, thank you.
Both hands give you 2 votes?
Yes. Oral report. Let's see. I'm sorry.
Public comments on
Yeah,
non-agenda.
public comments on non-agenda items.
Public comments are invited on non-agenda items generally considered to be within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Speakers must limit comments to 3 minutes. Before speaking, please state your name for the record.
Is there anyone that'd like to speak on a non-agenda item? Please come on down.
My name is Jeff Herdman. I live at 204 Coral Avenue, Balboa Island. Mayor Hill, council members, staff. I come to you this evening as president of the Balboa Island Improvement Association, as well as president of the Little Island Property Owners Association. I'm also a past member of the Tidelands Management Committee and advisory panel. And as a member of the TMC, I've had the pleasure of working over the past 3 years on the development of the 5-year Tidelands Capital Plan. One of the items on that plan is the replacement and/or repair of Balboa Island seawalls. The recent posting of storyboards at various locations on the island seawalls showing the proposed modification to the height of the seawalls in response to rising sea level has brought about a lot of conversation on the island, and that conversation has been funneled through our 2 associations, a great deal of it. And as a result of that, the Balboa Island Improvement Association Board met last month and formed a subcommittee to develop a recommendation to present to the City Council and to the Tidelands Management Committee concerning the repair and or replacement of the city-owned Balboa Island seawalls. So I want to take this opportunity to read that recommendation to you. By the way, a few members of our committee are sitting behind me here. The committee met on October 15th and discussed the 5 options currently being evaluated by staff, as well as a consideration of repairing the deteriorated walls of the Grand Canal and the west end of the Big Island, as opposed to replacing them. The options being considered are estimated by the city to provide flood protection to years 2040 with a top elevation of 9 feet, the year 2056 with a top elevation of 9.5 feet, and 2063 with a top elevation of 10 feet, with estimated costs ranging from $27 million to $70 million. None of these options give consideration to flood protection through the year 2100. In fact, the assumption that the walls would be gradually raised to 14 feet, an additional 5 feet, for flood protection after the year 2040 is neither practical nor acceptable at face value. The committee concluded that the City of Newport Beach should implement an immediate short-term, a short-term, and then a long-term program for flood protection on the Balboa Islands as detailed here, now. Over the immediate short term, we ask that the city evaluate the current systems to remove flood risk from a one-time combination of storm surge, king tide, heavy rain runoff, and other conditions that exist today according to its own analysis. Following the city's own data, this would be achieved by bringing... May I go ahead?
Please.
Probably one more minute.
That's all right.
Achieved by bringing all walls totaling about 13,200 feet in length up to an elevation of 9 feet. In addition, a robust pumping and or drainage system should be designed to dewater any wind-generated waves and chop that may slop over exposed stretches of the wall and that would replace the current rapid response dewatering efforts by the city. The raising of the walls to the elevation of 9 feet would protect the Balboa Islands from flooding through the year 2040. This can be achieved according to the city's estimate for under $4 million and should be put in place as a first order of business. Additionally, and on a short-term basis, we recommend that the city evaluate the structural integrity of the retaining walls of the Grand Canal in the west end of the Big Island, totaling about 3,800 feet, and determine whether to replace them completely or to repair them so that the walls provide protection through the year 2040. Current estimates for replacing these sections of walls about $16 million, and for repairing the walls, it's about half that cost. This work should be put in place as the next order of business. The above two projects would secure our islands against flooding through the year 2040. And then on long term, and then I'm finished, over the next long term, we're considering 5 to 15 years, and as more data is collected on actual sea rise, as well as the impact of rising sea levels on the entire harbor is evaluated, the city needs to develop solutions that take us safely beyond the year 2040. More elegant solutions than turning the Balboa Islands into a fortress without beaches need to be imagineered. The city, as owner of the seawalls, is responsible for providing a safe, flood-free environment to the properties within its boundaries. Balboa Island is one of the only areas in the city of Newport Beach defined in a 100-year flood zone. Unlike most other Newport Beach properties, owners on Balboa Island already incur the financial burden of flood insurance required by mortgage companies. The recommended plan by this committee will begin a process to eliminate the flood risk of our property owners.
Yes. How much longer do you have? I've let you go on.
One short paragraph.
As you're representing a large group, but you must wrap up.
Okay. That's it. I just appreciate the opportunity. I'm done. Tomorrow we're going to present this recommendation to the Tidelands Management Committee, but we felt out of protocol and courtesy we should present it to the council first. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the public that would like to comment on non-agenda items?
My name is Roy Engelbrecht. I'm a resident of Newport Beach. I was planning on coming to this council meeting tonight, regardless of Jack Wu's piece in the OC Register this morning, because I think you have a very important decision to make as a council. 1 week from tonight, there's a possibility that 4 new council people will be elected in the city of Newport Beach. Also, a week from tonight, Councilman Keith Curry could be elected to the State Assembly, and Keith, you have my vote. This will mean that for the first time since Newport Beach became a charter city in 1955, 5 potentially new council people will take their seats on December 9th. So I have 2 things to ask of this council. based on the fact for the replacement if, in fact, Keith Curry wins the assembly seat, and he will have to resign from the council. You know, the charter mandates that a city council, the city council, replace that position in 30 days, or it goes, if they don't do it in 30 days, it goes to a special election, which would be silly because a special election could cost $150,000 to $200,000. So two things I would ask of this council. One, for hopefully our new state assemblyman Keith Curry, that he resign on December 1st. And two, I ask that this city council do not name Keith's replacement, but that the new council, which potentially could have 4 new members, when they are seated on December 9th, that you allow this council, the new council, to select this replacement should Keith be elected. The new council will have to work with this new person for 2 years or 6 years, not the present council. I think this is the right thing to do. I think this is good government, and I would like to think that you would allow this new council to select Keith's replacement should he win. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public who would like to speak on non-agenda item?
Justin Cox once more. Try to keep it brief. Would like the council to, I gave everyone a presentation on a Bayview storm drain system project that's coming up, trying to get the necessary match funding since OCTA has granted the funds to do construction and partial engineering costs. The county park system has contributed funds as well as private property owners and others to make this storm drain system, which is sort of a 27-acre area of land where the water runs into a culvert and then passes over and just gathers a ton of sediment before turning the bay into a sort of a brown water sediment during rainy seasons. And yes, we haven't had rainy seasons lately, but it's important to plan in advance to ensure water quality mitigation. And I want to thank John Kapler for all his work. Bob Stein has been assisting the support of city staff and getting this on the agenda for future capital improvements to the city to make it a better place and help also the mitigation of the bay and improvement for the wildlife factors. So I want to thank the city for all their efforts there.
Thank you. Justin, I might add that this was called to my attention earlier, and I'm going to request staff bring to our next council meeting this as an agenda item so that we can discuss this, and then would also add that as we look at Measure M funding, I think it would be appropriate during that discussion to share with us the other elements, the other activities that the staff has been thinking about so that council can have some input into that, and especially the items that impact the environment. And would any other council people like to add anything to that? Nods?
Yes, I think as part of that too, any adjustments that would need to be made. We receive very generous funding on the Big Canyon wetland, which is great. It may not need to be of the size and magnitude we originally envisioned. So if we had to make an adjustment using more money for restoration, if we could have a discussion about that as well and the appropriateness of that. Thank you.
Does that work for staff? All right, thank
you. If I might just add one more thing. We have a lot of unsung heroes here who help with the bay and the preservation. As Leslie mentioned, the governor had mentioned the bay, but Howard Cork and his wife, Howard's the president of the Upper Newport Bay Conservancy, and put a lot of dedicated volunteer hours into, there's a lot that goes into the bay, and we thank all those who contribute.
I just want to recognize, too, Jack Keating's here.
Oh,
and
Jack's
for
here,
many
too.
years, Jack headed up the Friends of the Naturalists of Upper Newport Bay. Phenomenal contribution and really a wonderful steward, so thanks for being here.
Would have mentioned Jack first, but I didn't see he was here. I'm glad he's here. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else like to make a comment?
Hi.
Non-agenda
Good evening.
items. Thank
Brian
you.
Ozonian, Newport Beach resident and property owner. Mr. Engelbrecht makes a very compelling argument for what he stated. I'd like to second that. That's very interesting. On Balboa Island seawall, I want to just state that the residents are adamant that we don't get assessed for that seawall. There's a storm brewing if it goes the other way. In light that you will be discussing the bike master plan coming up at $22 million, if I put them on a scale, I hope you'll consider the seawall versus the bicycle master plan. I'm just saying. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak on non-agenda items?
Mayor Hill and members of the council, my name is Jim Mosier. As Roy said, we're getting very close to next Tuesday's election, and I wanted to say some more about the lies in Measure Y. At your last meeting, I spoke about the 356 dwellings that the city attorney erroneously believes are being removed to make up for the 500 new ones that city staff apparently wants built near Fashion Island. Staff has been unable to point to anything in the 15 pages of Measure Y that removes 356 homes. Yet the false numbers and the false information continues to be circulated as if it were true. I now want to speak about the removal of 1,001 hotel rooms, which, along with the missing homes, are said to make up for the traffic generated by 1 million square feet of new development. Measure Y accomplishes the so-called removal of hotel rooms by telling the county and the Coastal Commission that we, the voters, will cap the Pelican Hills Resort at roughly the present size of what it is. One of the many problems with that is that the Pelican Hills Resort is not 1,001 rooms smaller than it could have been. It's more like 750. It's hard to tell if that means that the claims about building square footage are wrong, but it certainly means that all the traffic projections are wrong. And as I demonstrate in the written version of this comment, after you correctly add the pluses and the minuses, the ballot question should tell voters that passing Measure Y is a vote to increase future traffic compared to the worst that it could be with the present plan. In fact, it will be much worse if one goes by the council policy required green light traffic projections which the city attorney has chosen not to share with voters. Yet the false numbers and the false information continues to be circulated with the claim that if the city attorney believes it, it must be true. I want to close with a misrepresentation that I cannot hang on the city attorney's shoulders. A shadowy Sacramento-based PAC operating out of a Costa Mesa post office box has spent more than $165,000 assuring voters that Measure Y, this, creates new water and environmental funds. That is a complete fabrication. There are many reasons to vote no on Y. Fundamentally, our present land use tables are simply better than the ones that are being suggested. But for those who don't like being asked to make decisions based on bad information, the decision is even easier. Just say no. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to make a public?
Just again, the hotel rooms, do you want to clarify that?
Yes, if I may. I'm Kim Brandt, Community Development Director. And I do want to address Mr. Mosier's comments regarding the hotel rooms that are allocated in the Newport Coast area. There is no disagreement that both the 2006 General Plan and the 1996 Newport Coast Local Coastal Program both state that there's a maximum of 2,150 hotel rooms that can be built in Newport Coast. The question is whether or not the two documents are in agreement as to the general location of the hotel rooms. And the answer to that is yes. In support of that answer, let me address the location of the hotel rooms chronologically going back to 1996. The 1996 Newport Coast Local Program indicated 1,900 hotel rooms in the Newport Coast Drive area and 250 hotel rooms in the Crystal Cove area for a total of 2,150 rooms. In 2001, the Orange County Planning Commission approved a technical refinement and update to the local coastal program, which transferred the 250 hotel rooms from the Crystal Cove area to the Newport Coast Drive area. The county was able to approve this change without amending the actual 1996 LCP document based on a provision within the LCP that allows such a transfer or such an action. In 2006, the city adopted their general plan, or the 2006 general plan, that placed the entire 2,150 room allocation into Anomaly 60, which is the area located along Newport Coast Drive, which is consistent with the local coastal program. Therefore, the 2006 general plan is in agreement with the Newport Coast local coastal program. And the proposed land use element amendment is correct in deducting 1,001 hotel rooms from the 2,150 hotel room total in Anomaly 60, which of course then corresponds to a 7,588 reduction in average daily trips. I realize that I just gave you a lot of numbers, and I would be happy to clarify any of them, but the point is that I will reiterate once again that the allocation and distribution of the hotel rooms is consistent with both of the documents as they both exist today.
Thank you. Any other individuals that would like to speak on non-agenda items? Seeing none, we'll move on with the agenda, and we'll go to item number 15. You do.
Mayor, oral reports on...
Would you like to do, all right?
Maybe.
We'll reshuffle and do oral reports. Councilwoman Gardner.
I have nothing.
Yes. Councilman Pestros.
I have none.
Councilman Selledge.
Me neither.
Councilwoman Daigle.
Nope.
Councilman Henn.
My report is that I have no reports.
Councilman Curry.
No report.
I have no reports.
But aren't you glad you didn't forget it?
We'll now go to item number...
Well, just briefly, I forgot to announce that there were no closed session report. So, since no one else is reporting, I won't either.
All right. We'll just keep stumbling through the evening. Number 15, please.
Good evening, Mayor Hill, council members. Brenda Wisniewski, Deputy Community Development Director. Before you tonight is the improvement program for Balboa Village. As a reminder, Balboa Village was identified by the council in 2001 as a revitalization area, an area that the city recognized as having the need to reconsider its vision as well as potential assessment of barriers to see that we can refreshen the area itself. To do that, the council appointed the Balboa Village Citizen Advisory Panel that began meeting in 2011 monthly, and as a result, they created the Balboa Village Master Plan, which was adopted by the council in September 2012. The master plan identified a series of strategies which were intended to be both feasible and easily implemented within a realistic time frame. And those strategies focused on planning and zoning, parking, economic development, as well as public infrastructure. To ensure that that document was implemented and not a document that would sit on the shelf, the council wisely allocated, designated a Balboa Village Advisory Committee in December 2012 to assist in the implementation of the master plan. That BVAC, as we call them, began meeting in December of 2012. 2013 was focused on developing parking strategies in the area, and 2014 was looking at improvements to basically refresh the area itself. So tonight we're before you with the improvement program. The improvement program was presented to the Planning Commission, focusing on the design guidelines on September 18th and October 2nd. And then October 28th, tonight, we're presenting the program to the City Council. We're breaking the program down into two pieces. The parking management ordinance will be considered by the Council on November 25th. So tonight before you is the overall improvement program, which is including the streetscape design concepts, wayfinding signs, an architectural design guideline update, as well as a facade improvement program. The first three components, we brought on RRM Design Group to assist in developing those concepts. So I am going to invite Jamie Williams up to go over those with you.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and fellow council members. Thank you for having me this evening. Tonight, I'll be discussing the process and some of the components of the improvement program. I would like to say that this was a really successful and exciting project, working with a very collaborative team of individuals from the BVAC to the community, and then our consultant team, RM Design Group, and Graphic Solutions, which is the Wayfinding and Gateway. We were able to, within 6 months, develop a three-legged stool, if you will, of improvements that will beautify the village area. I'm going to start this evening talking about the streetscape program. We broke it up into 3 phases, focusing initially on the Balboa Boulevard area because there are improvements going on further to the north, and it's a nice continuity. In addition to that, we're including the secondary village streets as part of the phase 1. The second area, or phase 2, is Main Street, and then the third phase would be the waterfront area. The program encompasses updated streetscape furnishings, new pots, new colors, and integrates this logo that has been identified by and created by the Merchants Association. So you'll see that as a unifying theme throughout the streetscape and the wayfinding program. The idea is to really clarify and bring an identity to this area so that as you come in, you really know where you're at and it has a special feel and character. This is an example of one of the concept plans that was developed for Main Street. You can see where the streetscape palette that was previously shown is integrated, additional landscaping and street furnishings are incorporated. Similar concepts were developed for all of the other streets. The cost estimates have been broken up into the phases. The first column represents soft costs. That'll be the additional design fees required to go through preliminary design and construction documents. The hard costs represent getting it built. And then the contingency is to allow for, as we go through the design process and construction phases, to compensate for any unknown things that may arise. The wayfinding program, again, is really put into place to create and unify a theme and identity. It works in tandem with streetscape improvements. It complements the citywide signage that's already in place. However, it creates, again, that unique identity with this logo that's reinforcing the theme for the area. One of the primary focuses of the wayfinding program is to really create connectivity and a visual cue for vehicle and motorists to be able to find parking easily so that they can park and then walk around the village, and then the wayfinding and kiosks and directional signs to help pedestrians find amenities and attractions within the area. This exhibit shows a number of examples of that. There's a gateway at Adams and the ferry gateway. The existing directional signage has a few flaws, and it's why we're proposing to update it. They're a little difficult to read. There's a lot of information on them, and some of the information has become outdated. So this collection of new proposed directional signage really looks at reinforcing the theme and getting people back, as I said, to the parking, to the ferry, to key destinations within the village. The cost estimates for the signage program would be hard and soft costs about $370,000. That would exclude the gateway, and then the currently budgeted $200,000 would be going towards a future gateway sign. The design guidelines portion of the project was an update. As we said, the original guidelines were adopted in 2002 and haven't been amended to this day. So the ULI, or Urban Land Institute, recommended an update to that, and it comes at a good time as, you know, should you choose to move forward with a facade improvement program, it'll set the direction and guidelines for future investment. The guidelines are really proposed to create better direction, additional graphics, to clearly illustrate the desired architectural style and theme of the village, and to clarify the difference between development standards, which are typically found in your zoning code, and design guidelines, which help guide the image and character. They also have been restructured to be very user-friendly, to really streamline and remove duplication, to be easy to cross-reference for staff and yourself to be able to use as you go through it, and then the end user, the applicant. A few examples that are also included in the design guidelines are before and after examples to see how some individuals may choose to use the facade improvement program. This is an example of a minor before image and some potential suggestions on how that building could be updated through simple things as new signage, accent lighting, colored trim. Moderate before and after example is shown here, and again, reinforcing sort of the historic components that are there and may have been covered up over time, adding some new awnings. And finally, an example of a major improvement would be this one, removing the mansard roof and really kind of reinforcing the character that's desired for in the village. So with that, I'll hand it back over to staff and be happy to answer any questions should you have any.
I'll briefly go over the facade improvement program that is proposed. What was echoed both in the master plan as well as the ULI technical assistant panel report is that the area generally has some deterioration that has occurred, and that deterioration is greatly contributing to the overall declining appearance of the area that affects the desire of those residents and visitors to want to visit the area. But both documents also recognize that the area does truly have great bones. That's why you saw in the street improvement program, it wasn't proposing to change the roadway system at all, just basically to wanting to refreshen what's there. So similarly, along the same line, some incentive to invest into the facade improvements is needed. What the marketing study demonstrated in the master plan was that the property owners feel that the rents that they're collecting currently is adequate, but that any further investment into the properties wouldn't fare additional rent increase, so they don't see the desire to do that or the benefit of doing that. So a financial incentive to help them improve the facades is what is recommended, and that is common in districts like this. So just to briefly go over the...
Just before, this is what I've choked on every time during the whole process. And is there going to be a special fund that's, if something like, say, all the parking money was going to go into this and that's what was going to pay for it, I could understand that. The parking money from that area went into improvements. But the reason I have a problem with this is, one, that we have other areas that also have some degrading of facades, but also our residents. If I bought my house in 1960 and I've gotten old and my house has gotten very expensive, but I'm living on Social Security and I can't afford a gardener and I get weeds, the city comes and gives me cites me. I have to do that. I don't get any benefit from it. So I just, unless we can find a way of sort of self-funding, is to take money out of the general fund or to even use CBG or whatever it is funds, which we're already using so much for Balboa, I just find this very difficult. I understand the philosophy behind it, but I don't accept the financing. So I'm hoping that there'll be something that has come along since we first looked at this that makes this more palatable in terms of how it is funded.
I'll just address that briefly. The council will be considering the parking strategies in November. And as part of that package is a proposal to develop a parking benefit district, which would look at basically just what you're saying is maintaining the funding in that area that's generated by that area for a purpose such as this. So the funding for these concepts we're presenting tonight will be forthcoming.
And I think the intent is to fund this program within the boundaries of the parking revenue generated in the district, excluding parking revenues that are generated in Tidelands parking lots, which are the biggest lots there. So this is from parking revenue outside of that, and so that would be the intent.
And what we've seen in other communities is just a very minimal amount of money can go a long way. The Tier 1 level, as presented here, would be more of the painting, awnings, signage, minor improvements that could be a grant of maximum $5,000 per building or tenant suite. That would, again, go a long way. The idea being on Balboa Boulevard being the priority block, it could go up to $10,000. Another incentive offer would be to waive the permit fees. In Tier 2 would be more of an aggressive type of improvements. This would be actually a matching type of funding obligation. That would be 50%, up to 75% for Balboa Boulevard, to a maximum of $50,000. And the situation we have in that area is that we really aren't talking about that many businesses or buildings. We estimate that perhaps 25% of the people would want to participate. And based upon that, the total program cost would be about $220,000. And that could be phased through several years or all at once. So we do have a program management proposed that would be a first-come, first-served process with an application that be approved by the Community Development Department, our director. And also we would be interested in continuing to work with the BVAC in developing the program parameters. Any other questions about the facade program? So lastly, our recommendation is to adopt the draft resolution within your staff report, exempting the action this evening per SEQA, updating design guidelines, and then accepting the concepts for the street improvements, wayfinding, and the facade improvement program, with the idea that we'd be coming back in a later date with the funding program as well as a phasing program to support the implementation of those efforts. And then lastly, as was mentioned by Jamie Williams, Council has already identified $200,000 for construction of the gateway sign. So with those fundings already available, we would look forward to working with the BVAC to further design of that signage and get it constructed.
Is there, having seen the presentation on the Balboa Theater, do you think any need to go back and look at the design guidelines, Mike? Or do you think there's enough flexibility?
I think there's enough flexibility, actually, and to have a distinctive facade for the Balboa Theater that's different than it is today, but within the guidelines. The guidelines are just that, guidelines, and really there is, I think, two principal design themes associated with those guidelines that should allow for plenty of flexibility.
Other comments from the council?
Great.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
very
the
much.
presentation. I would like to open it up for comments from the public before we bring it back to the council for further consideration. Anyone from the public like to speak on this agenda item?
W.R. Dildine, 300 block of Balboa Boulevard. I'd like to comment, these people put up, in my opinion, with a lot of unnecessary rhetoric from the people in the audience. You all did a heck of a job putting up with it, particularly this gentleman here. I have a question.
Excluding yourself or including yourself?
I've been pretty good. I don't care. Once I get my problems taken care of at the city, I'll be happy as can be. Under recommendation C, direct staff to coordinate with the BVAC to finalize the gateway sign design. The first question, if it can be answered tonight, I notice on your slides, it appears that gateway sign is on the Adams. In the booklet of the staff report, it shows that it's on Adams is where the business districts start. It's down on, what the heck is that street? Medina Way, which is 1,000 feet away. Now, if you're going to put it on Medina, I'm personally opposed to it. Because I would look down Balboa Boulevard, and I'm going to see that sign. I'm not going to see commercial. I'm going to see residential. Looking the other way, you'll see commercial lights. So that's what my concern is. Also, if the BVAC, with about 6 members and the 2 council people that have done an excellent job, I think from the GUF in the past, property owners, not tenants, property owners ought to be notified or hold their peace. As I recall, when we put this sign down near Cassidy's, the billboard, no parking, the merchants complained because it stopped business down there. And that sign is probably on 10 hours a month or a year. It's a monument there that everybody wonders what's going on. Maybe we could take that and salvage it. Too bad it doesn't have LED lights in it. We could utilize it. Thank you.
Thank you.
While we're waiting, I think that archway is at Adams, is it not?
That's correct. It's at Adams.
Bill, I think we solved one of your problems right here on the spot. Okay.
Brian Ozonian, Peninsula resident. When the Balboa Market was there, I heard a rumor that when it came down, surface parking and eventually a parking structure. Now, in this revitalization, when we get more people, where are we going to put them? So I don't know if that's being considered or not. I heard it would be maybe 2 levels down, 2 levels up, and all kinds of combinations. But where are we with parking? Thank you.
Someone want to comment on that? Councilman Hen?
Yeah, the parking garage idea is certainly alive, although I think we'll pend the processing for a parking garage until we see how further requirements develop here in the village. And so that we did acquire that space to provide for that alternative in the event that it is needed, and it's still there, and that is still the intent. We don't have a present plan for that facility to be built, but it's at the ready.
Further comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council. Council members like to comment?
I guess I would start by moving the item and
Second.
thank you, and just convey some thanks. Thanks to Tony Petros, my fellow council member, who's served so well with me on this committee. Thanks so much to the advisory committee of citizens that have served so well over these last 2 years. Special thanks to staff for having done such a great job of organizing this process, setting a timeline, and then making darn sure we hit that timeline. And that's not an easy thing to do. In government, it usually takes longer than it takes. In this case, it took just exactly as long as we had planned it to take. And there was a lot of work to be done along the way, many public meetings, many aspects of this to be tied together. And I'm very grateful for the support of our RRM as well, who did a great job on this piece of it. And we're here tonight with the first real action item on half the program. We'll see the other half shortly. And it's very gratifying to me to see the culmination of all of this and in such a well-executed process. So thanks to everyone.
Councilman Gardner? Councilman Petros? Village.
Yeah, well, this is pretty good stuff. On the guidelines, if I have a building and I'm not going through any discretionary process, then I'm just free to do whatever I want. We really don't have any authority. Is that correct or not correct? Through these guidelines.
If reviewing a building permit, staff will still utilize the guidelines to ensure compliance.
So it doesn't matter whether it's discretionary or non-discretionary, these guidelines will apply.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, I guess the only other comment that I would have is that when we have the next phase of this, when we have the financing aspect of it, that we really kind of put it together, that we can see there's a lot of different phases in here, that we have some kind of I don't know, a 5-year or 10-year plan laid out as far as how we're going to phase this in, where the funds are going to come from. I'd kind of like to see the Balboa Theater wrapped into it, as well as I think we've got to sit back and take a look at the big picture here. We're doing 2 big landscaping projects out there, so let's take a look at the whole picture and see how it's all going to fit together in our financial picture. I don't know if anyone's thought about how many years it's going to take to implement this, but with this effort, unlike what happened in the earlier set of guidelines, I'd really like to see something take place and get it laid out like we did our facilities financing plan, and let's see where we're headed.
Well, I would like to make a couple of comments. Number one, a very impressive work effort on schedule, and that bodes well. I guess in my experience, when you have, and we talked about this a lot when we did the Lido master plan, when you have eclectic architecture, the unifying theme becomes the public right-of-way, the landscape and the furniture and these types of things. And I think that obviously you've paid a great deal of emphasis to that, and I think that's important. But I also find, and I think we're seeing this on Balboa Boulevard, that when the public right-of-way is improved, it encourages property owners to come back and improve their property as well. And so it's just a different atmosphere. It's like, putting in the new rug to find out all the furniture looks bad. And so I think that will be a synergy that will begin to take place. If I had any criticisms of the report, I have a question. If the report contains the decided upon logos and these types of things, I just would say from a personal standpoint, to me, the one icon of this city uniformly and always used is the pavilion. And I find it interesting that while you consider the pavilion, you would switch to the Ferris wheel as the icon for this particular area. If that's your decision, it's your decision. I just find that's a strange switch from what I've known as the history of this city, is to focus on the shape and outline of the pavilion. I think the report does not give enough comment of the importance of sound installation for mixed-use environment. I saw one place in the report where it just said sound installation. Successful mixed use does not exist unless it has special attention paid to sound attenuation. And I would like to see is that report in its final draft might have a little more language in it about the importance of that. And clearly, if not that, when we check drawings and plans, that we really look thoroughly at that aspect. Otherwise, all we're going to be doing is having tenants complain about the sound issues that exist. And then the other element, which I didn't see mentioned in the report, but I think that the Walt Disney Company taught us, is that the area will never be successful if it is not absolutely spotless clean all the time. And I think that's one of the most important things to take care of down there. So with that, I would ask the council to vote.
The motion carries unanimously, 7-0.
All right, we'll move on to item number 16. And I believe, Councilman Hinn, you have a recusal on this item?
Yes, I do. For the same reason that I recused myself on the consent agenda. Thank you.
Item 16.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, Council members. Dave Webb, Public Works Director, and Jim Campbell, our Principal Planner, will be talking about the Newport Boulevard modification project that we have underway. Tonight we're bringing before you the adoption of the mitigated negative declaration, which is the environmental element of the project, and also looking to adopt the concept. And we have a brief report for you on this. Starting with, I'm sorry, can you go back one slide? The picture up in front you've seen a couple times. This is the project limits. It basically runs along Newport Boulevard from Violito down to 30th. It takes in a little bit of 32nd Street. It deals with all the 4 intersections there, including the 2 that we recently relinquished from Caltrans, Finley, and Violito. You can go to the next slide, please. The project's primary purposes here are to input and build a 3rd lane northbound from 30th to 32nd Street. We're also adding a 3rd lane southbound from Violito to 32nd Street. We're extending the bike lanes that currently stop now on Newport Boulevard at Violito, and we're going to take those down to 32nd Street. And then we're going to have to relocate the on-site parking. There's about 20 6 spots that are currently on street that will need to move into a parking lot. We're also including landscaping of all the medians in there, and those will be in accordance with the Lido Village design guidelines that you approved. And then we're trying to do other traffic improvements like modernize the signals. All the signals will be addressed, new equipment, new reliability. We'll be looking to lengthen the left turn pockets where we can, and other items like that. And also improving the flow along there. There's one closure we want to point out. The median at 31st Street will be closed to left turns going onto it. That'll help us widen the left turn pockets.
Repeat that again.
We're going to be closing the median at 31st Street on Newport Boulevard. Let me see if I can point that out. Right here. Currently this is open, but in order to get these left turn pockets to work better and also add some landscaping, we'll be closing this gap, which we find is fine. You've got free movement all the way around the blocks there. One of the items that we want to point out specifically is the parking. There are, what we'll say is the report says 26 spaces on site. There's actually 27 on the street. One of them is a 30-minute loading zone that's on 32nd Street, I believe, that we've got included in this. So we're going to go ahead and replace that. The plan right now is to build the new parking lot on the corner of 32nd Street and Newport Boulevard. That parking lot currently is designed to handle 30 new spaces, so we'll be adding 3 spaces on that. And I do apologize. We wanted to bring the landscape concept to you tonight, and we couldn't get the consultants to complete the design in time. So you'll be seeing that next time with the bold element of that parking lot that you requested. We also.
So, David, the pink is, or the magenta is existing parking, and the orange is where we're going to add.
Yes, and let me point this and go through this with you just a second here. This corner here is 32nd Street, and this is where the new parking lot will be built. This is basically going to have 30 spots. We put the magenta on here to show you the public parking lots already in existence. So over here on 30th, you've got 2 major lots. Back here down on this area, 30th, there's another major lot. And then we have street parking along 32nd Street that's existing in this area. It also, there's some private lots that come in here, and I put them in yellow because it affects, as this parking along here is being removed, it's to note that this property has its own parking lot of 16 spaces. This property has its own parking underneath. This property, the gas station doesn't really have any parking on site. And then this property here has 2 lots behind. So there is quite a lot of parking in the area. All 26 spaces that will be taken off the street, 27, excuse me, will be relocated in here with a surplus of 3 on top of that. One other note, too, just because we have had some parking comments on this, we've bought the bank there and we'll be taking out 5,000 square feet of commercial property, basically, and that parking lot that we bought is currently a private parking lot. So if you recall when a Blockbuster was there in Wachovia, those parking lots were full with the business property. They're currently basically vacant now because the building's been vacant for a long time, and the residents and others are enjoying the use of those right now. But they do belong to that property in that commercial center, should it have been redeveloped and used.
While you've got the this image up here, could you, with your cursor, show how the alley and the Marcus Avenue thing is going to work?
Yes, it would. Marcus is right off 32nd Street here, and it's currently a one-way street. And we plan to keep this one-way street going, I believe it's one-way going out. But at this point right here, we'll turn it into a two-way street so you can come in and out of the driveway here and back out this way. This alley here is also a one-way alley, and it's basically a one-way alley going out. So we have some restrictions, and the flow of this will be basically in and out of Marcus here, and you'll be able to exit out of Marcus. You'll be able to exit out the alley here, but you will not be able to enter here currently with a one-way alley. So the circulation is mainly off Marcus and also coming out this direction. There is a driveway here. This is private property, and we won't be cutting through that, but this is open as a gap. We are taking out this alley access right here. Currently, the alley goes through, but this has traffic flow and interruptions to this intersection, which we're trying to improve the circulation on. So the flow will be changed to this direction.
Is there going to be? There won't be a signal there, though. So a left turn lane, a left turn out of there. I don't know how much. Is there not a lot of traffic on Marcus, so that won't be very difficult, or?
It could at times. Most of the time it won't be. You can make a left turn out onto 32nd Street here. You can't here. It's too close to the signal and it's too congested. So by taking it back here, the left out will be a lot easier and safer. You can also make rights in and a left in here too.
But then the rest of it remains one way, so the neighbors are not going to get, except for that first little piece, there won't be any more additional traffic in terms of this change.
Correct. It'll stay as it is today. And again, that's signage, and there's always the occasional person that'll drive down that street backwards, but it's going to stay the same.
As far as these 26 spaces that are proposed to be eliminated on street parking, have those businesses been contacted by the city?
Those businesses have been contacted, and in the publication in your council memo, you'll see we sent out a mailing to each individual business and talked about the mitigated negative deck, which talked about the removal of parking. We also advertised this in the pilot. We've had several study sessions and discussions on this project here, and we spoke to several of the owners. Actually, we've talked to this owner adjacent to the bank right here. We were actually thinking of buying some property about a little sliver on this area here, but they chose not to really work with us on that, so we dropped that from the project. We have contacted and talked to this owner here. He's aware of the project as well as these folks.
So I understand being aware of it. Are they opposed to it? Have they expressed concerns? What was their reaction?
There are some comments on the responses, and Jim can get into those from a couple folks about the concern for parking in the area. We looked at this. Again, this parking lot in the corner is close enough that it serves all those. These folks have adequate parking in the back. There is some other parking challenges in the area. That's probably a larger discussion, but we're just basically removing and putting in another location. We are adding 3 extra spots. But if you ask the residents, they'll probably talk there's a deficiency of parking in this area. I don't know if I answered your question there.
But there's, I know, kind of a city hall lunch place in there, and people used to walk over. It was very popular, and the whole appeal to it is that you could either walk over or you could park right in front of it. I mean, if you had to park, and do any measure of walking, I'm not sure what that would do with their business,
Again, looking at the appraisal on that, they didn't find that the parking was so far away that it caused any kind of impact. And as I point out, those yellow areas, there is parking behind there, and I don't think a lot of people realize that there's some signage. And those lots are generally open most of the time that feed the building next to the gas station there.
That might be something that, as far as signage, just to indicate that they may not have signs, but maybe we can help them with that a little as far as their customers, indicating.
We could probably add something like that in. So with that, why don't I get into the mitigated negative declaration and have Jim go through what they found on that.
Mayor and members of the council, we did prepare a mitigated negative declaration in accordance with California Environmental Quality Act and our local guidelines. We had a consultant chambers group prepare it. The general finding is no significant environmental impacts. We do have some mitigation measures to monitor cultural resources, geology, hazardous materials, and the like with the demolition of the buildings and noise. There is a sound wall to be constructed as well.
Let me ask about that.
Oh, certainly.
The neighbors were concerned, and it showed a slight increase in noise, but not significant enough that we actually have to mitigate for it. But my question, we're going to build a 6-foot wall. How much benefit would be if we made it an 8-foot wall? Does that really cut the sound down for them, or does the 2 feet make any difference?
It wouldn't necessarily be necessary because it's not a significant impact, but a higher wall would provide some additional measure of protection. It is something that is allowable by the zoning code, and we can talk to that property owner to see if they would want to have a higher wall. Currently, the wall is approximately 5 feet, and then there's some wood that goes a little taller than that, and so the analysis showed that we really need to have a full 6-foot high block wall there, and so we will work with that property owner to either replace the wall that's there or we'll build another one on the city's property.
Well, since we're building it, I think that we might at least ask if because they might get some real benefit from the extra 2 feet, and they might want that. So
I think we can do that. So we did have the public comment periods. We actually had 2 public comment periods with this project, one back in in June and July. And then we sent it out again for public comments in August through September into early October. to make sure we satisfied the requirements of the California Environmental Quality Act. And so we did receive some comment letters for both periods. We did prepare responses. Again, with the mitigation measures in the areas that I mentioned, there is no significant impact to the environment, and everything is mitigated to a less than significant level. So, of course, we do recommend adoption of the MND and the Mitigation Monitoring Reporting Program. One point I do want to note is the date on the Mitigation Monitoring Reporting Program is incorrect. We would date it today if adopted. And then there's that one change about 26 parking spaces, and I think what you'll see in the presentation is really 27. It's really a Scrivener's error, and so we would want to make that update as well. These are the areas of mitigation. We can go through those if the council desires, and if there's a question that I can't answer, we do have the consultant here to assist us. With that, any questions?
Questions of council? All right. I think it's an exciting project and a great improvement. I think the other thing that I would add is that those businesses, I'm certainly are aware that they will have potentially 100 customers on foot across the street, many of which who will not have a car there, that will be more than pleased to walk across the street to partake in something of quality. So is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this item? Please come on down.
Hello, my name is Guy Edwards, and appreciate the time that you'll give me here. Is that we are the property owner of that one particular building where, if we could possibly get that picture back up, might be able to show it to you. We're on 31st Street, I think it is. Where they show the space that Blockbuster was, we're actually to the right of that, 2 buildings down where they show the little yellow spot of parking. We've spoke to all the tenants on those 2 buildings there. In fact, we're just started a couple days ago getting a petition. Everybody's opposing the removal of the parking spaces in front. Each of the retailers are definitely going to be affected by it, and half of them weren't totally unaware of it. So for the statement that they have been notified, nobody was aware of it. And further down where there used to be 31 Flavors, which is that other section there, all those tenants have signed a petition, and I've gone to the back in the neighborhood there as well, and they're all opposing it. So just to say that there isn't much impact on it, there is. And the retailers that we have now as tenants are having a tough enough time just doing business. And I can't imagine people crossing the street or walking, even if they are this far down onto 32nd Street, to walk all the way back down to 2 blocks to go to a retail. That's just not going to happen. You're going to eventually start seeing those stores closing up, and there'll be vacancies. So totally opposing the removal of those spaces. And we're going to oppose it with the coastal as well and aggressively pursue that because it's just not good for the businesses that are there now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. My name's Steve Flanders. I own property on the 3400 block on Newport Boulevard. I live on the waterfront on Marcus, the 3500 block. And what the assistant manager, I believe, who was speaking, said was, in my opinion, completely false about a number of things. So let's start with the parking lot where it's on the corner of 32nd and Marcus and the two-way street. That's going to be very dangerous. I go driving down 32nd and onto Marcus, and boom, if there's a driveway that's coming out and coming back out that street, it's a formula for disaster. Can't do that. That's going to create all kinds of problems. I don't know if anybody's really opened their eyes to that. Regarding the parking on the 3400 block and the 3300 block on Newport Boulevard and removing all those parking spaces, that's another disaster. I understand you want to add more spaces. I don't understand the bike lane thing. It's always been great having everybody going down the alley, but I already have a vacancy that's coming up this Friday because of this that's coming up, that's been discussed. And there's a lot of vacancy there on Newport Boulevard. And I know you said that with the Lido House Hotel, that's probably not till 2017, the middle of that it may be built if it goes through. But it creates a major problem with parking. I know you said that there's a whole bunch of parking behind the 3400 block back there. That's a lot of parking that's for various businesses. They get filled up a lot. It's not public parking. People get towed away very easily there. I know there's a number of other places that you've identified that there's parking. You can't go parking, well, you can park beyond where the old city hall is, but that's going to be assigned to the Lido House Hotel, which incidentally doesn't have enough parking for all the rooms that it's expected to build, for all the conference rooms and the different, let's say, massage or restaurants or whatever is going to be in there. We're just limited on parking. So, and I don't even understand that design of how it looks like you could make even more parking spaces on that corner. But there must be a way to go ahead and use the parking lot next door where the Blockbuster building is, and find a way to, thank you, and find a way to pay to have access to exit out there safely on to Newport Boulevard. Not to go ahead and go out. Can I continue a little bit longer? You really need to know about this. You can't go out. You can't go out onto 32nd Street. It's too dangerous going around the corner. You can't go out onto Marcus for several reasons, because it's going to be too dangerous. People coming around and expecting that to come.
Okay, you're beginning to repeat yourself.
I know. I'm just making that point. And also, by making parking right there and having an exit, you may even have people that say, "Oh, that parking lot's filled." And they may continue down Marcus, and Marcus is already a disaster. There's a number of neighbors that have 10 or 12 cars because they're, I don't know if they're allowed to have that. They gobble up all the parking spaces on the street. Then you have the beach parking and everything.
Okay, you need to wrap up, sir.
Okay, I'll wrap it up. So anyways, in summary, it's dangerous to have an exit or even an entrance on Marcus. It's a bad idea to remove the parking off of Newport Boulevard, not that you're going to listen to me. And the parking that you are looking at that may be assigned to the Lido's House Hotel or that's for private businesses, you just don't have enough parking. You need to go ahead and
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you for the time. And you know what, I'd actually like to hear back from you, and I'd really like to hear back from
Thank you, sir.
The city manager, assistant city manager on this.
I would like to hear back, just to remind at least me anyway, I think when we approved the Lido House Hotel, that parking analysis was done for functions, employees, everything all inclusive, all in. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, thank you. All right, anybody else in the public like to speak on this item? Seeing none, that'll bring it back to the council. Further comments from the council?
Mr. Mayor.
I would just like to, he sort of echoed what I had asked about on that Marcus thing. Is there room? I mean, it does seem like a left turn there could be, it's pretty short. There's not a lot of distance between where you turn right and then somebody would be turning left.
We did look at that, our traffic folks, and two things to keep in mind, that it is one way going down Marcus off 32nd. We're dealing with a small lot here. We're talking about 30 spots, basically, so it's not a huge volume. And there is room to make that left to come out and then either make a right or left on 32nd. Now, you could have a case where there's a lot of cars exiting at once, and you might have to wait in the parking lot or back up. But you're not getting cars coming down Marcus because it's one way going into the track, not out. So you're not getting a stream of cars coming out to make the left, except for that one piece that'll now be two-way.
No, I'm saying if I'm in the parking lot and I'm turning left onto Marcus to get out, people are turning right, so I'm coming this way, they're coming around the corner this way. Are there sufficient sight lines so I see them in plenty of time that I don't pull out when they're coming around that corner fast?
The parking lot will be designed for sight lines. Right now I believe there's a wall there, but that'll be removed. You'll have an open plane there to look out to the left and see all the way around. There'll be landscaping, obviously, but we want to make sure we have the sight distance too, if you follow that.
Okay, but the traffic engineers are comfortable with the distance.
They didn't recognize any problems here. They said this would work. So.
And will you have right turn only onto 32nd Street, or will you have right and left on 32nd Street?
I believe you have right and left coming off 32nd onto Marcus, and then going out you'll have right and left coming off.
And that doesn't interfere with the stacking from the signal?
I don't believe it does, but we could look at that further in the design.
I think one of the issues that you have there is when you have your flushing of the peninsula and you give an extended right-of-way on Newport Boulevard, you get significant backup on 32nd Street. And I'm not sure that signal is geared to react rapidly enough when the flushing is no longer needed.
Correct. It gives you another option. Right now, as you know, the parking lot, there's the alley exit, and you can only make a right out. So on those cases, when you come out and 30 seconds backed up, you'll probably want to make the right, go down to Bow, and make a left or right on that. It'd be the same circumstance you'd hit today, except you have more options as you're further back on the signal to have the opportunity to make a left.
Further comments by the council?
Well, it does seem to be that we're in a situation where we cannot do this project without removing the parking, on-street parking spaces. It's just we will not get what we need. We will not get the improvement of the traffic from I think an F to a D and an F to a B, and depending which way you're going. But I do understand that if I had a business there and we're used to having that parking right in front, that I would be dismayed and wondering. So I think that if we go ahead with this, we do need to think of ways that we can really have great signage so that we help those businesses as much as possible in terms of where the parking is and how close it could be.
I'm not going to support the elimination of 26 on-street spaces used by business. We wouldn't do it in Corona Del Mar for sure, so why would we do it here? I think we should treat our businesses with equality.
Actually, we are proposing to remove on-street parking in Corona Del Mar in front of their businesses.
Well, we haven't done it yet.
Well, but we're moving along on that project.
I'd move approval of the item.
So,
all right, we have a motion.
I'll second.
All right. Further discussion? All right, please vote.
With Councilmember Daigle voting no, the motion carries 5-1.
We'll go to item 17, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, council members, Dave Webb, your Public Works Director. Tonight we have Brad Summers, our traffic engineer, with us, who's been working on this plan and is going to be going through the citywide bicycle master plan for you to review and approve tonight, hopefully.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. It's my pleasure tonight to bring you the bicycle master plan. I think I'd like to note that we have both the project team in attendance with members from Alta Planning and Design, CDD, or Community Development, pardon me, the Police Department, as well as Mr. Frank Peters, who's, I believe, been with the Task Force of Cycling Safety, the Citizens Bicycle Safety Committee, as well as the recent Bicycle Master Plan Oversight Committee. Looking back a bit before we move forward, the City of Newport Beach has always had a strong history of cycling. And with that, I believe the city has always been attentive to the needs of the cyclists. While we're moving from the old City Hall to the current facility, we had the opportunity to dig up some archival documents, and I just couldn't help but showing them. What we have on the left, the City of Newport Beach Bicycle Handbook, is actually a 1976 document that was co-authored by then staff member and then later on Centennial Mayor Don Webb. On the bottom right, we have one of several bicycle maps that we were able to locate. This one was actually dated 1969. And up above, this gentleman's fashion statement struck me, so I decided to put him in. He's showing off a new high-tech bicycle rack attached to a parking meter in the oceanfront lot.
That's Seymour Beak, isn't it?
Is it? I accused Mr. Webb, Mr. Don Webb, but he said no. So a quick background.
In the last 5 to 10 years, we've definitely seen an increase in cycling. It's actually a nationwide trend that the state of California is enjoying, as well as our fine city. With that, and at the request of the community, the Task Force on Cycling Safety was established in 2009 and chaired by Councilwoman Nancy Gardner. And in 2010, when the committee sunset, they provided a list of proposed recommendations and improvements throughout the city. Following up that, and also chaired by Councilwoman Nancy Gardner, was the Citizens Bicycle Safety Committee. It began in 2010 and sunset in 2012 with a recommendation to create a bicycle master plan. Following up on that recommendation, the city set to prepare a comprehensive citywide bicycle master plan to promote bicycling safety and responsible cycling. To provide guidance as well as a public forum for that process, the Bicycle Master Plan Oversight Committee was created in 2013. This committee consisted of 7 community members and was chaired by Councilman Tony Petros. To aid with consulting services, Alta Plan and Design was selected in May of 2013. City staff from Public Works Department, Community Development, as well as the Police Department rounded out the project team. And then a key date for the Bicycle Master Plan was September 2nd, 2014, when the committee recommended pushing the item up to council for adoption. Throughout the process, it was noted that public involvement would be key to the success of this document. For this reason, the project team created a comprehensive public outreach program to engage the public into the process. That started with 10 Bicycle Master Plan Oversight Committee meetings that were publicly noticed. We had a project-specific website, an active email distribution list, which currently holds over 260 members. We received over 400 bicycle surveys in a combined online as well as paper format. We had a unique interactive bicycle facilities map that allowed the public to access it remotely and provide comments. We had 5 public outreach meetings, which included a formal workshop at the Central Library as well as 4 pop-up type events at key locations throughout the city, such as Back Bay or the Newport Pier area. We enjoyed a youth workshop meeting with the kids at Ensign Middle School. We had a public agency workshop where we invited Caltrans, OC Parks, and other border agencies to come and talk to us about their plans and to coordinate our efforts. And then a 30-day final draft review for the public. It's important to note that our Bicycle Master Plan follows a somewhat standard format where we follow the 5 E's of bicycle design, which have been created by the League of American Bicyclists. They include engineering, encouragement, education, enforcement, and evaluation, and we'll delve a little deeper into these as we move through the process. Looking through the Bicycle Master Plan components, we're going to talk briefly about the existing conditions, recommendations, implementation, and evaluation. These are kind of the core sections of the document. Starting, of course, with existing conditions, this is the base for the document. The project team, along with public input, reviewed the current bicycle network, facilities, city practices, and city policies. And through this effort, it was discovered that we have approximately 93 miles of current bicycle facilities, and that would include everything from off-street trails such as the oceanfront, on-street bike lanes, on-street bike routes, as well as bicycle sidewalks. Following that was a needs assessment to create a determination of the current and potential needs of cyclists as a basis for the plan recommendations. This is where the bulk of the public input and outreach happened. We reviewed the different types of cyclists. We used metrics such as bicycle counts as well as an incident review of bicycle-involved incidents. And then there are forecasts that are derived in this section. So moving into facility recommendations, this is where the main focus is and has been from the community as well as the project team. A facility recommendation, these are going to essentially be your construction projects to create physical improvements out there, such as the pictured East Bluff Drive bike lane, which was recently installed. The objectives of this were to increase cycling comfort, encourage cycling, and expand the citywide bicycle network in consideration of all cyclist types. Looking at it in a tabulated format and comparing it with the existing, planned, and of course the proposed mileage that we were looking at, we have our existing 93 miles. We currently have 19 miles that are going to be installed as some sort of project that's already underway. And then the bicycle master plan through the facility recommendations includes an additional 46 miles to total 158 miles of bicycle facilities.
In the report, it noticed that people like me love the bicycle sidewalks, and we feel much safer on those. There's no increase of those. Did the committee review to see if there were areas where we could add bicycle sidewalks?
There actually, and we'll talk about that a bit later, but to answer it quickly, there actually are several locations that aren't currently in the resolution we'll be adding into it, but that's always going to be an idea as we move forward with future projects.
That's a really good point and something I'd really like to see further evaluation of. Basically, in Newport Beach, you can't ride on a sidewalk unless in the municipal code it designates you can ride on a sidewalk. And there's many instances where school kids are riding on sidewalks and should be. We see junior lifeguards on sidewalks. I'd really like to see a more extensive evaluation at the council level of where people can ride on sidewalks. It's so much safer. There's so many accidents occurring on roadways. So I don't think that is something that should be punted away from this council.
Following up on the facility recommendations, and kind of a partner to that are actually program recommendations. The plan considers over 30 of these recommendations, and here, these covering kind of the other 4 E's besides engineering. We're looking at ways to educate roadway users, increase the awareness, encourage cycling, evaluate the effectiveness of the programs as well as our improvements, and promote equity among all roadway users. Of course, we always have a few square pegs that don't quite fit into the nice buckets that we've prepared. So we've touched on a few of several items that are actually in the document, starting with coordination with other agencies. This would be where city staff would reach out to other agencies such as Caltrans that have facilities within the city or adjacent to, and work with them directly to be able to move forward with our recommendations and our shared right-of-way. Oceanfront has a recommendation for a comprehensive study to look at the benefits as well as the constraints of items such as extending the oceanfront or widening it and possibly rerouting it in some areas. Back Bay Drive, there was a discussion about this as well. The recommendation at this point is to work within the existing right-of-way to come up with sign-in and striping improvements to where we can facilitate all of the current users. Section 6 of the plan works in implementation. The plan is actually programmed to be over 20 years. There's an estimate of $23 million. This is for the recommended construction type facilities. If there were fine print in the plan, it would probably say something along the lines of this is in current dollars. This also cannot, unfortunately, at this point, account for items that would be discovered in the design, such as the need for additional right-of-way, special permitting, such as coastal, etc. And then the project or the implementation chapter also discusses a 3-tiered project ranking based on metrics such as incidents, bicycle-related incidents, public input, as well as connectivity to key facilities throughout the city. Backing out of the bicycle plan here for a second, the committee looked at these 140-plus recommendations and 30-plus programs and asked that there be a bit of a short list prepared, which we later dubbed the first priority recommendations. So we have a list of about 6 here we'll touch on briefly. The Newport Heights to the Beach is actually a continuation of the Citizens Bicycle Safety Committee recommendation to improve the heavily used route from Newport Heights to the Balboa Peninsula. There are actually sections of this, such as the pictured 32nd Street bike lanes that have already been completed. We have other programmed components of this, such as the discussed Newport Boulevard roadway improvements, which would include bike lanes, and then other items such as work on Coast Highway could be coordinated with Caltrans. The Santiago Bike Boulevard is a term used to basically improve Santiago Drive to become more bike friendly as a key gap closure to the very scenic Back Bay Loop. This is a great community, so of course there would be a lot of outreach done with them. And then there is an opportunity to extend the trail leading from the Constellation Drive street end to bypass the Irvine Avenue Santiago intersection. We talked about sidewalk improvements. This is an asset, I think, that our predecessors have left us, where we have several wide multi-use style sidewalks in the city. And as mentioned, these are a great place for casual cyclists to be. So we want to further that by looking into new locations, as well as reviewing what we have and look for improvements that can be made, as well as better understanding which sidewalks, or better notification to the public of where they can and should not ride. The Bayside Drive Complete Street Improvements is a look, considering redesign of Bayside Drive from Coast Highway to Marine Avenue as a multimodal and complete street location. Of course, there's a heavy review of the roadway needs and conditions, as well as community outreach involved with that as well. Now, through our outreach, Coast Highway Newport Coast Drive came up as a location where the community felt that there could be enhancements to the striping across the free right turns. This is an area where we were discussing with the community, and they were in favor of the striping, which we have already installed on our section of Coast Highway. So we'd be considering that design. Part of the intersection is actually within Caltrans right-of-way, so we'd be coordinating with them, looking for the best possible path to make that happen. The Coyote Canyon landfill actually provides a good opportunity for a off-street protected or Class 1 bicycle facility to connect the Bonita Canyon Drive with San Joaquin Hills Road, avoiding the faster traveled Newport Coast Drive. It's actually a county facility, so it would require coordination with the county, and we feel strongly this could be designed to allow for future development. Along with the facility improvements, of course, are our first priority programs. Again, the sidewalk cycling resolution, the current resolution that stands is dated 1982. We've annexed several locations with good facilities in, so we'll be updating that. Creation of a family education program targeting school-age kids as well as their parents. The Be Seen in Newport Beach campaign has a basis of a cyclist's first offense is actually being seen by approaching motorists, and would incorporate ideas such as using running lights, encouraging use of high visibility clothing, as well as proper lane positioning. And the bike parking in lieu of policy revision is a closer look at our parking policies for private off-street parking lots in conjunction with businesses that may actually benefit from, say, loss of a vehicle parking spot, but picking up several bike racks. Again, on a side note here, it's important to note that the city, although this process has been approximately about 16 months, the city's already been moving forward with several of the implementation items that are actually recommendations within the plan. As shown here, this clip from our August 12, 2014 presentation to Council and Study Session, we identified 10 projects, again, directly related to recommendations in the plan that the city is currently moving forward with. Moving into evaluation, we would propose an annual review of bicycle-related metrics, again, such as bicycle counts, bicycle incident review. We would present an annual plan progress update to the City Council, coordinated with the annual budget process, and then the bicycle master plan would be on a 5-year review period. Looking at resources, the plan in Appendix K identifies several grant and funding sources, and it should be noted that the plan was actually developed in a format to be used as a tool to increase our eligibility for several of these grant opportunities. It also includes a facility toolbox in Appendix G, which offers several modern design items and ideas and practices that could be incorporated into our recommendations as we move forward. And then the final item, the project program management, is actually an item where, through current discussions, we're considering different staffing resources that, of course, could be dependent upon approval or adoption of the document and how we want to move forward with these recommendations. So prior to the questions and comments, I would like to note that the project team was encouraged and very thankful to Council for the guidance they've given us in this, especially Councilman Tony Petros and Councilman Nancy Gardner for chairing the committees and their in-depth work with the community. We also like to thank the three community committees that worked closely with us, as well as other members of the community, creating an exceptional public involvement and engagement in this plan.
That conclude the staff report? All right, thank you very much. Comments from the council?
Yeah, I have a couple of comments. One was just a sort of a surprised at a statement in here that toxins and metals from cars cause explosive growth of algae. I'd always understood that it was nutrients, nitrates and phosphates, that these toxins are harmful to marine life, but I think that's a misstatement, so just for the future. On page 5, it says, encourage schools to develop and provide bicycle safety curricula. You know, our schools are so beleaguered that to expect them to have the time or resources to do that is probably unrealistic. And I think that since we're not going to have a committee as such, but to think of ways that the city itself or bike groups themselves can take the lead in this and really sort of present something to the city, even with, say, here's the grant. This is the grant you apply for or whatever, would be really helpful. Because I think if it's left to the schools, it just may not happen. Not for lack of wanting it.
Mayor Hill, if I can quickly respond. That is a very, very good observation, Nancy. And in fact, in the next week or two, we will be embarking on a collaborative with the district representatives on a regular basis just to talk shop about coordination on city matters and district matters, and that might be one to start with. So thank you for that comment.
And the only other thing, I just thought it was so comprehensive. I was telling Tony earlier that my concern was that it would be for only one kind of cyclist, the kind of cyclist who is that one that's bold and aggressive and doesn't mind riding on PCH through Corona del Mar. This is so comprehensive. It takes account of every level of bicycle riding, which is just great. The only other thing I would say is that what this showed also is that we're very much a walking community, and that as we're doing all these bicycle things, we mustn't forget to keep our eyes on ways to make it safer for pedestrians as well, because that's also very good environmentally, and a lot of people will walk where they wouldn't ride their bikes.
Thank you. Any further? Councilman Curry.
Well, I would like to congratulate everybody involved with this. I thought it was a very good report. I thought it was very comprehensive. We ought to go back, by the way, I think recognize the leadership of Councilmember Gardner and Councilmember Petros, who have started this and who picked up the cudgel on it and who have really helped move this along and really helped to transform our city in terms of its ability to accommodate and interact with bicyclists. And we see hundreds of them every day in our community. I think we've got a great start here. I think it's a very good plan. I hope we're able to move to an implementation plan on this in a very methodical and thoughtful but expedited way, so that these concepts and ideas can be implemented in the city. But this is a result of the great leadership from Councilmember Gardner and Councilmember Petros and from the many people in the community who have been involved in this. And so I just want to say thank you for a great job.
Thank you.
A couple comments on provide some more background on the sidewalk issue. When I talked to the former Public Works Director, although our sidewalks can accommodate cyclists, the idea was let's get kids out in the street as soon as possible, kind of the school of hard knocks, and they can figure out how to learn on the street. And consequently, what's happening is they're still riding on sidewalks anyway. They're just doing so illegally. So I really believe that issue needs to be looked at, expanding the areas in the municipal code where kids are allowed, or any bikers are allowed to ride on the sidewalk. And then secondly, when the next council convenes in January, I hope that they seriously consider continuing bicycle safety committees. It's a group in our community that has a lot of passion, that has a lot of knowledge, that is willing to do a lot of research. They tend to be outspoken. I think that's a good thing. And I think we have to give credit to the community. Some of these improvements were clearly community-driven, and they really forced the council to, I think, take a look at these things. So I hope that we do continue this new tradition of having a bicycle safety community and involving our citizens in our city government.
Just one quick comment. I think Newport Beach has to be one of the best planned cities in California. We have master plans for streets and roadways and electrical, water, wastewater, key infrastructure, the whole works. And it's not just that we have these plans, it's that we fund them and execute against them consistently year in and year out. That's a tribute to good staff support and planning, as well as council guidance. I think this is another terrific addition to the planning for our city, and so I do want to add my congratulations to all those involved. It's really a wonderful addition.
All right. I'd like to open this up to the public. Anyone from the public like to comment?
Mayor Hill, council members, my name is Frank Peters, and of course I've been a participant in this process going all the way back to when Councilwoman Gardner started the process in 2009. And maybe I smiled, Councilwoman Daigle, when you said some members have been outspoken. That would be something I've contributed to the process. The Bicycle Master Plan, it's very important. We have a lot of work to do to improve bike safety. I don't know, I remember Brad once upon a time saying that if you look around the city streets, maybe in the middle of the day, you see a lot of people Frank's age out there on bikes. And I'm not used to that categorization, but that's what I observed too. And so I'd like to tie that into the references I heard tonight about riding on the sidewalks. I organized a few rides this past spring, and I noticed the kind of people that were showing up for my rides were not the Lycra-clad group, because my rides were kind of for beginners, perhaps. And so as I recognized my constituents, I organized a bike ride that was going to be exclusively off-road on sidewalks and bike paths. And I would take people up MacArthur and down into Irvine, and, well, everybody loved it. There was a strange side effect there, though, is I haven't stopped riding those kinds of routes. I find it so much more comfortable when I bring a friend or a loved one out for a bike ride. Yes, I could ride them down Coast Highway through Corona Del Mar, but nobody really enjoys it, and it's hard to have a conversation. So I appreciate your interest in wanting to explore more opportunities to create safer conditions like that. The plan, I say, isn't perfect, but it's a great place to start. And I encourage your yes vote on that. We want to get more people on bikes as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak on this? Please come on down.
Howard Cork. I'm the president of the Newport Bay Conservancy. I wanted to speak about Back Bay Drive. I've had numerous conversations with Brad, who's given me a lot of time, and also conversations with Frank Peters when the issue of Back Bay Drive came up in the Bike Master Plan conversations. It's obviously a particular challenge as a street because it's quite narrow and it has a multiple number of users making use of it, including both the casual cyclists and, to use Frank's term, the Lycra brigade. It was very noticeable that on 2 occasions recently, when action was taken by the city to monitor speed, and obviously there's a 15-mile-an-hour limit there, that life was a lot more pleasant for people who were pedestrian users on that street. One was Coastal Cleanup Day, when the city closed the street to vehicular traffic and monitored the speed and was asking cyclists to maintain the speed limit because we had quite a lot of pedestrians on the street. It was very pleasant. The cyclists had time to thank the volunteers who were out there cleaning trash off the bay. Everybody got along beautifully. It was a nice experience. After we'd had the debates about Back Bay Drive on the Bike Master Plan Committee, I noticed that the police also came down and started handing out warnings of speeding tickets to cyclists who were exceeding the 15 miles an hour. And that also had an effect. So I guess as part of the improvements that will be carried out there, I would ask that the city continue to encourage people to maintain that speed limit there, which I think is perfectly adequate for a street of that nature and still enables cycle use there. But increasingly over the last couple of years, or last few years, there's been an increasing number of pelotons of large numbers of cyclists travelling very fast down there, and that is it's very threatening for pedestrians on that street. So I would just ask that, along with the other safety improvements that will be considered, that monitoring the speed of traffic, either vehicular or bikes, there is continued. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Barbara Danzy, former member of the Newport Beach Bike Safety Committee and current member of the Orange County Bicycle Coalition Board. I want to congratulate all of you for putting together this plan. It's clear that a lot of thought, work, and collaboration has gone into it. And as the Bicycle Coalition looks to collaborate with you, particularly on the encourage and education aspects of it, we're here to work with you on that. The last 2 years I've been living in Boca Raton, Florida, where I moved for work, so I haven't been participating in this. But I just want to point out the contrast between the two cities. It's another beautiful beachside city, but when two cyclists were killed within 3 days of each other in Boca Raton, there was no uprising at all. It was just, oh well. And when we've had that unfortunate situation here in Newport Beach, the community rose up, the city council reacted, and you've all put together a plan. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
I hate to be the party spoiler, but I'm here, 9:05, to ask you not to approve this plan. The whole peninsula has been left out. More trips on bikes than the whole city, and it's omitted. I do not understand. Residents on the peninsula have, I'll say, 24/7 problems with interaction with bikes and their riders. We've studied the skinny tires real well. I have no complaints about that. I have no comments about it other than a big omission. You've left out the whole peninsula. Even the item on Violito to 32nd Street provides for probably a bike lane. But there's no plan. Just get them off Newport Heights, dump them on the peninsula. Balboa Peninsula is the Disneyland of Orange County. And they all come with their bikes, and they all come with an attitude that everybody's on vacation. Well, we're not all on vacation. Some people live here. And it's dangerous. They use crosswalks for bike paths. We have issues about separation on the ocean front. Other cities have studied that. Ask Santa Monica how they got theirs all the way through the beach and how they separated. But for some reason, it's all omitted. And it's right in front of you, and no one's talking about it. The second point is I'd like Brad Summers dismissed from his position. I've asked him several times to come and meet with me on the peninsula. I've asked Michael Henn, Councilmember Henn. I've asked Councilmember Petros. All of you have refused. And tonight there's a big omission. Now, in the spirit of listening to the community, I'd like to see if you're listening. Because this is a real important thing. There's lots of kids that go to school, and there's a lot of visitors that are sober and drunk. And there's crimes committed all the time on bikes. It's out of control. And it's like everyone refuses to see the elephant in the room. It's a dangerous place to ride a bike and drive a car, and there's no plan. It's omitted. So it creates a false perception that we have a master plan. You don't have a master plan when you've omitted the biggest element of bike trips in the city. I just don't see it. So I'm asking you to send this back for further consideration. Sounds like there's a lot of sensitive issues. You may need a consultant for it, especially if you're going to spend $22 million in 10 years. Because we don't want to wait until 5 years or 10 years as residents for you to come up with recognition of this problem. And everybody wants to come here. Everybody wants to ride their bike. I don't think you've studied Balboa Island, but it's pretty much a no-go to ride a bike on Balboa Island. Wouldn't you agree, Councilmember Selledge? It's very hard, and you can't ride on the streets, on the sidewalks. Anyway, that's my point of the night, so I stayed so late. Thank you.
Anybody else like to comment on this?
I would just only respond, Brian, you'll get your wish as far as I'm concerned. It'll be a few more meetings and I'll be dismissed.
I have one positive comment, recognition of issues.
Your name again, please?
Justin Cox. I thank Nancy and Tony for really chairing these committees, and it means a lot. There's a lot of public comment and discourse. I appreciate the effort that Brad put in with Howard to work on the trails. It was great on Coastal Cleanup Day that there was a lot of effort from the city this time to help with that effort and close down some of the areas for cars and such, so more restoration work can be done. And I know Leslie's done a great job working on additional signage on Back Bay Drive and working through those issues. And Michael Henn says it's great that we have people, when they really listen to the community, Dave Kiff and the Assistant City Manager, as well as the Public Works Department, just listening to those public concerns. And I think that Mayor Hill, I congratulate you. I like the way you handle public comment and listen to people. It's important. So thank you.
Your time's up. Thank you.
Mayor Hill, I did have.
Beg your pardon?
I did have a question.
Please.
On this issue of funding, does adopting this plan position us better for regional funding, or can you maybe identify any correlation between having a plan and applying for funding?
It actually does. Several of these active transportation style grant opportunities are now or in the future will require a bicycle master plan to be in place. Yes.
Further comments by the council?
Mr. Hill, I just want to make one additional comment just in support of the good work that Public Works, specifically Brad Summers, has done with this master plan. He really stepped up. It's not an easy issue to deal with, and as you've heard, there's lots of passions on all different sides, and you're not going to make everybody happy, but Brad did a really wonderful job, I think, reflecting exactly what the committee wanted, and has brought that back to you, and my hat's off to him. I had one. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you. Council Gardner.
Yeah, just to respond to the gentleman from the peninsula. That was an area identified immediately under the Bicycle Safety Task Force, and that was one of the reasons that we had a project on Newport Boulevard and 32nd Street in those areas. I haven't been on the master plan committee, so I'm not as familiar with it, and I know Tony will probably fill in much more. But there is something there to study the possibility of extending that whole area down there and making it. Is there a way that we can improve that bike safety and connect all the way to the river jetty, perhaps? And I know under Councilman Henn, we have had the different periods where we have done our best to have greater enforcement to improve the mix of pedestrians and cyclists and making sure that cyclists are obeying the rules and that sort of thing, and we've tried to respond to the issues as they've come up. And it may not be complete. This may be something that perhaps it does need more attention down the road, but I don't think it's been something that's been totally ignored. But as I say, Tony, you're much more familiar with the plan than I am in detail, so you might want to expand on that.
Councilman Petros.
I'll expand momentarily, but I'll wait for you to close the public hearing.
Anybody else from the public like to speak on this topic? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the council.
Then Mayor Hill. A couple of comments that I would like to make. This is the culmination of at least 5 years of effort, and I would be remiss if I did not call out Councilwoman Gardner for her asking questions back in 2008, 2009 that started a task force effort. That momentum, we're here tonight to complete. It has been this document is full and complete and omits no part of our city. In fact, on page 58, I see every one of the facility classifications going up and down the peninsula. On pages 59 through 62, the peninsula is called out. On page 70, in fact, the oceanfront path is called out for exploration of alternatives. Clearly, the peninsula is a key part of this because Mr. Ozonian is correct. It is a well-traveled area for the residents, for visitors, for all types in Newport Beach. Let me come back, though, to some of the elements of this plan. It is a $23 million capital plan for a 20-year horizon. But as Councilmember Daigle pointed out, it really is a vehicle for us to seek outside funds to implement this plan. We would not be able to launch on a $23 million effort if we did not have this plan. The Bicycle Transportation Act and the Active Transportation Plan call for this type of a document in order to open up the opportunities for state and regional funds. This is visionary by virtue of doing this. And as a visionary document, it was created by a group, and I would be remiss if I did not call out the members of the committee: Michael Alty, Lou Cohen, John Heffernan, Robert Kahn, Greg Klein, Sean Matzler, and Frank Peters. I am much about product as I am about process, though. And this bicycle master plan, I am most proud of the process. A number of public meetings, a number of opportunities where the city went out into the community to gauge the interest in cycling in our town. We had open houses. We had interactive internet engagement. At every one of our Bicycle Master Plan Oversight Committee meetings, there were anywhere from 20 to 80 people in attendance. And each time there, the civil discourse was at a level that made me proud to be a Newport Beach resident. Yes, there were times when there were issues before us. And yes, members of the committee, Mr. Peters included, and myself, were very passionate in our positions. But we represented the best for this community. As a result of that, mobility in Newport Beach will be safer. Hopefully, cycling and walking will be encouraged more once we embark on this plan. This is precisely what makes Newport Beach our community. I would be remiss if I didn't call out Mr. Summers for the good work that he did. This was pressing work. You were you worked diligently, and I'm proud that you're part of our staff, Mr. Summers. Our police department monthly would give us reports. Lieutenant Liu and now Lieutenant Fischbacher, who's in the audience tonight, thank you for your detail and efforts here. I couldn't be prouder tonight to move the adoption of our Newport Beach Bicycle Master Plan.
I'll second that.
Further comments by the council? I would ask you to please vote.
The motion carries unanimously, 7-0.
Thank you. With that, we move to motion for reconsideration.
A motion to reconsider the vote on any action taken by the City Council, either this meeting or the previous meeting, may be made only by one of the council members who voted with the prevailing side.
Is there any council member that would like to take up an item for reconsideration? Seeing none, we stand adjourned.